In the sixth round of the FIDE Grand Prix there were still several theoretical constellations as to who could qualify for the candidates tournament. But at the end of the day, it was clear that the decision would be between Levon Aronian, Hikaru Nakamura, Linia Dominguez, and Anish Giri, and only winning the group would count. So you can say that all four players were more or less in a must-win situation, and the question was, who can handle this pressure best? Aronian, with the black pieces, had a Queen's Gambit declined, Catalan opening on the board. This opening, characterized by a kingside fianchetto, is often considered to be a positional opening, where white plays for long-term pressure rather than an immediate attack. We now switch to Nakamura. Nakamura, also with black, had to deal with the bishop's opening, which on the one hand can be called a surprise weapon and on the other hand can lead to dynamic play. Now we continue with Dominguez. Dominguez accepted the Queen's Gambit, and since black gives up the center in this opening, he probably set up his game for counter-attacking chances. How did Giri's game start? Giri, with white, played an Italian game. And with the Choco Pianissimo variation he entered a positional maneuvering game, since in this variation an immediate confrontation in the center is avoided and thus the early release of tension through exchanges is prevented. The first highlight happened with Aronian. With the pawn moved to f4 on move 18, Oparan started his attack on the black king. And after a nice combination with the bishop, he was finally able to advance with his queen to the 7th row. This did not look good for Aronian. But next, let's switch to Giri's game. This game was incredibly positional, but Tabatabai managed to position his pieces a little better. The first piece to leave the board was the captured pawn on d4 on move 21. Immediately afterwards Tabatabai played the brilliant knight move to f4, which on the one hand sacrificed the knight, but on the other hand allowed the black pieces to penetrate. And Giri was in huge trouble. But for now, let's switch to Dominguez. The two players met on equal terms and the game was very even, but when on move 20, Kima, with knight on e5, put pressure on the black knight, an important defender of the king, Dominguez was forced to defend offensively, but in doing so, lost his rook against a bishop and a pawn through a nice combination by white, who gained an advantage of plus 5.2. What was going on at Nakamura's game? Although the evaluation was only plus 0.3, white put enormous pressure on black's kingside. But Nakamura defended very well and found the right move with his pawn sortie to f5 to ease the position by exchanging some pieces. On move 31 he also managed to place his knight on f4, very uncomfortably for white. Esipenko immediately took this knight out of the game with a sacrifice exchange. So the game was still even, but Nakamura was able to reduce the pressure significantly. Let's now take a look at Aronian's board. On move 28, Oparan also managed to move the rook to d6 and exert further pressure. Finally, he was able to position his pieces in such a way that Aronian resigned on move 31 when the position was evaluated with mate in 7. In the end, the combination of knight to f7 check, and bishop to e4 checkmate, could only be delayed with sacrifices of all the pieces. After this defeat, qualification for the candidates tournament was over for Aronian. With Giri there was also a decision. Tabatabei's attack was ultimately too strong and Giri resigned on move 30 in this completely lost position, with an evaluation of +13 for black. In the end, the checkmate after bishop to b8, queen g1 and rook g1, could only have been avoided with an incredibly high loss of material. Thus Giri was also eliminated from the race for the candidates tournament. We now move on to Nakamura. On move 37, Nakamura made the next pawn sortie, this time to h5. And after the knight moved away, he took the white pawn with his rook and Esipenko resigned in this completely lost position with an evaluation of +7 for black. With this, Nakamura won his third match in a row. We now move to the last game, in which Dominguez needed at least a draw. But Kima was able to maintain the advantage he had gained earlier and gave Dominguez no chance to counter. And so it came to this position, in which Dominguez resigned on move 46, since taking the pawn with the knight would have led to the loss of the bishop in any case. And if he had captured with the bishop, even checkmate would have been the consequence. These 4 games were chess at its best, as they were all decisive and won under 50 moves. And now it was official. Hikaru Nakamura and Richard Rapport had qualified for the FIDE candidates. Congratulations! If you liked the video, please hit the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest chess news and tournament highlight videos. Thanks for watching.